background music. Hello and welcome to the Wild Wild West podcast. My name is Richie Richey, full-blown lumberjack this evening, as I am expecting approximately about a foot or so of snow over the next day and a half. So I figured, why not? Beard, lumberjack shirt. I'm ready to talk Broncos. The works. I'm ready to talk Broncos. That's all I got to say. Over here, directly to my left, you can go ahead and catch the real Alex Givens on Arrowhead Addict, as well as the Lightning Fast Fantasy Podcast directly after this podcast at around 9:30 p.m. Eastern Standard. You can do all the other math to figure out if you're in a different time zone. Down directly below here, you can catch Jack. He's going to bring you all of the Las Vegas Raiders perspectives here this evening. And obviously, Jack, we had a rivalry game between our two squads. And honestly, it was looking rather concerning there for a while for my Denver Broncos, but we'll get into that just a little bit later. And ladies and gentlemen, Robert is going to be either late or won't be able to join us this evening. Late getting home from work and TBD, working to try to get him in if we can, and we shall go from there. I guess just kind of quickly gonna go over around our kind of four teams. Alex, I think we may as well start with your game because I really want your insight on what the heck happened.
Yeah, it's certainly.
I'm sorry, I got no other way of describing it, my man.
Well, I mean, hey, win's a win. Still 10-1, and it always seems to be the fading, glass glimmer of hope quarterback turns into Tom Brady every time they play the Chiefs, because Bryce Young definitely played, more like Alabama Bryce Young than Carolina Panthers Bryce Young. I don't know if those directly coincide, Big E, but evidence is stacking up.
Yes. Yeah.
See, that's Robert's problem, is that every time he's got something going on, his team loses.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you can also, there you go, Big E. Big E figured it out, so I guess I don't need to say anything. Stop throwing flags on other teams. Why don't you go look who's like the most penalized team in the NFL, Big E, and then come back to me. But anyways, based off how we how we talked about the game going into it, I thought they would be a much larger deficit in between the score, and it came down to ultimately Patrick Mahomes needing to do what Patrick Mahomes does and get the ball with about a minute and a half left and get them in position to win. Certainly cause for concern that you beat the Panthers by 3 points, especially when the spread is 11.5. But it is the NFL, and a win's a win. You can't really be overly upset with being 10-1.
Nope.
But it's kind of the same things we've seen were the issues with why this game was close. First and foremost, they had pretty much very minimal pass rush, so they weren't really putting Bryce Young in high pressure situations to make a whole lot of mistakes. And I mean, to his credit, he really didn't. It was a clean game across the board in terms of turnovers, but just a lack of pressure certainly made it easier for them to kind of pick the defense apart at times. And then again, the tackle play in the offensive line has just continued to impact the offense. I'm pretty convinced up to this point it's impacted, the way Mahomes approaches different deeper concepts, and that I don't think he necessarily reads the whole field because I don't think he feels like he has enough time to do that at times. And honestly, the proof's in the tape that he doesn't. So, it's that's a cause for concern. But offensively, they played pretty well. which you would think that they would against a team like the Panthers. But Mahomes was for 37, 270, 3 touchdowns, turnover-free game. Ran the ball decently well. He had a huge run to basically set up the win. And shout out to Justin Watson. I don't think really many people follow me that watch the show, but I did retweet a breakdown from Orlovsky of Justin Watson blocking 3 guys on that play. So Mahomes could get into basically field goal range in one attempt. But yeah, so really.
Hey, sorry, Alex. Just to quickly interject, my newest additions to my family are about to exit stage right. So in theory, in kind of lockstep with your Thanksgiving, because obviously mine has already come and gone because I'm Canadian and ours is a couple weeks before yours in October. This is puppy number 1, the newest addition to my family, Brooke, and she is a golden retriever poodle cross. She's going to be heading out, and then I'm going to show you number 2. Again, from the same litter. They are sisters. This is Denver. Again, a little camera shy. She doesn't really want to look at herself on film, but just they're being shuttled. They're being shuttled off now so that we don't hear their yapping anymore. So I apologize for that. But,
I thought that was Jack.
Well, no, I it may have actually been Jack, although that was his recording from Sunday's game, I think. But aside from that, it is what it is. But Alex, you're talking about some of your guys kind of doing the thing and stepping up and whatnot. I think that's kind of been the theme for you guys a little bit, is in key moments, key guys kind of just do the thing.
Well, even breakout parties. I mean, Clay's been, impressive this year too. At tight end. So I really liked what he's done. But I got to ask you, on a scale of 1 to 10, how nervous were you?
Gray. You're talking about
Gray.
Gray.
Yeah. I was like, who the hell is Clay?
I thought it was
Charles Clay.
Okay.
I don't think I was. I wasn't that. I wasn't that scared. Really watching any of the game. I don't think there was. I mean, they were able to move the ball, so I pretty much knew as long as they didn't have the ball last, there'd be a pretty good chance. So, you
just feel like they're kind of playing down to the competition until it gets to be crunch time, because that kind of feels like what it is, and then Mahomes steps up and.
I mean, that may be, that may be part of it too. It definitely had the inner workings to being a trap game. Like a team as bad as that, huge spread. You think you're coming off of a loss. I mean, I figured it would be closer than it probably should have been, but. Like I said, a win's a win. It is what it is. They, immediately signed DJ Humphries after the game, left tackle that's I think most recently played with Arizona, coming off an ACL injury. But I mean, for the other, when he was playing, I mean, I think a top 15 tackle in the league. So at least you're getting what you think is an upgrade or a veteran presence. In the tackle position. And honestly, if they could just get that to firm up the left tackle play just a little bit, I think things would get a whole lot better and easier. Because it's kind of been a rotating door at the left tackle spot, and both options have not been overly consistent, in pass protection and being able to pick up the things that they should be able to pick up. So, that's definitely been a hindrance to the offense, whereas last year it was, drop balls and, dropping, deflecting passes that turn into turnovers. This year it's, tackles that cannot block for more than a second. And I think Mahomes kind of internally speeding things up and making more mistakes. So we'll see how Humphries, that addition, comes into play. As well as, this week, Pacheco should be back, as well as a Minihue. So, again, kind of like I said last week, for them to be, at 10-1, getting those types of players back, things it should be going good for the rest of the season. So,
well, Alex, I have to say, you're the guy that blocked 3 players for your team did much better than Alex Forsyth. He tried to block 3 guys, and he got put right on his ass. So,
that'll happen.
Yes, he did.
At least your dude, stayed on his feet, right?
Yeah. Well, and I mean, it was kind of rotating blocks. It wasn't like a group of 3.
So,
yeah.
Alex, I guess a couple things there, which I know some people might ask, some people won't. So it'd be interesting just kind of get your perspective on it. Obviously, a game like that against a team like that is not going to bode well, deeper into the season against, what is obviously going to be clearly better competition. Now,
I mean, I don't know. I'd push back on that because obviously they're going to get every team's best. This is essentially every team's Super Bowl. I mean, if Carolina won that game, they would not have shut up about it for a year. I mean, hell, listen to Jack sometimes. He doesn't stop talking about Christmas. I mean, that's it. The Chiefs are every team's Super Bowl, and they're going to get every team's, best game,
effort.
best scheme, best all the stops. So,
That is true.
Games are going to be closer than they should. And I mean, like Rick said, like they always find ways to win. And that's what elite teams do. It doesn't matter what the circumstances are. They're going to find a way to win. And, that's not what you always want as the fan, especially like you said, you're playing the Panthers. Like, 2018 Mahomes team, that would have been 45-7 or something ridiculous. Right. But, they've consistently found ways to kind of mold their game or react to how teams are playing them to just find a way to win, whether that be, I mean, in this game alone, the leading receivers with targets and the leading, receivers in terms of yards were Travis Kelce and Noah Gray. So like they, knew they had better chances of exploiting the middle of the field with their linebackers and, just did that and didn't force deep shots to Worthy or, try to get cute with creative plays. They just took what they got. And I think that's why we see games kind of end up this way, because they've taken a different approach, knowing what it takes to get there and kind of the timing of everything, and just finding ways to win is more important than how you win.
But Richie, you're right. It is like everyone's, Christmas Day, Super Bowl. And, your team's done so well. We're all hunting for stuff just to slight, your Chiefs a little bit. And it's so difficult.
Yeah, he is. I don't think there's been a confirmed determination that he's. I think all signs are pointing to him coming back. I don't think they've confirmed it yet. But if he does, I don't think he. Yeah, I'd say probably 20 to 30%.
And what's also really impressive about your team? They always find like a replacement. No matter what happens, someone gets hurt. It's that next man up mentality, and it's like there's no let off. I mean, where I can see it with my own team, there's a big drop off. So I mean, drafting well, having the right coaches in place, it's been paramount for your team. I mean, you look at, again, we're going to talk about running backs, and I'll have questions when we get to arguing on that. But
so on that note, Alex, is there anything else you want to add to your game in terms of a look ahead based on that game, or maybe just like kind of a one person that you're kind of want to keep an eye out for, or you just kind of leave it there and we'll move on?
I think we'll just leave it there and move on.
Fantastic. So to quickly discuss an interesting game, and that is the Chargers loss to the Ravens. That was in fact what Robert did predict, although he has opted to not join us this evening, likely out of shame, pure shame and only shame. No, just joking. Robert, I'm joking with you. We spoke earlier tonight. He started a new job. Congratulations to Robert. And the job just has him working some wonky hours, and he has said that he will absolutely make best efforts to come and join us this evening. But he has told us well in advance he's going to be late. So he was willing to be on the show and eat his humble pie for losing to the Ravens, and we'll wait and see from there. But obviously the Ravens really did dominate that game by and large for the majority of it. The Ravens kind of got out early and kind of kept pushing forward and kind of maintained their lead. It was an interesting game. The Chargers certainly made it interesting, but at the end of the day, a little too late. And that might be an interesting blueprint for the Chargers if you can kind of go in that direction by forcing, a score and a half or 2-score lead and try to maintain it and whatnot, because that may be the way that you can beat the Chargers. I mean, they've had a fantastic record this season. They have certainly turned things around way faster than I think anyone. I mean, certainly faster than I thought they were going to.
Absolutely.
And so, but I mean, kudos to them. They made that competitive, and man, they've had some pretty solid games these last little bit, and it's just they happen to have one loss.
It was a great matchup. I mean, the Chargers defense gave up the fewest amount of points. Ravens got the top offense, so you got the matchup that you wanted to see.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the battle of the brothers, right? But
yeah,
watching the game, like it was obviously what is a 1-point game at half. But I think I said this to Robert, and I know he's talked about it before, but again, it's just the Chargers are a one-half team. It's either the first half or the second half, but I don't think they've ever played a game this year where it's been complete. And I know Robert's complained about the lack of, making offensive adjustments at half, and I think that's kind of what we saw here. And like you said, Rich, if you can get them out of the, building off of the run game and having to pass, you see what happens. Like Quentin Johnston, who was either tied for the lead or second in the NFL in touchdown catches, just it's like he ran out of secret stuff and went back to last year. I think, was it 5 targets, all 5 bricks. But
yeah. One, revert to 2023.
Yeah.
Yeah. Look at Ladd. Ladd had a good game, though.
No, that dude's good. I mean, just like, Bowers, I'm not to compare them directly, but you got a hit pick in Bowers. Like, Chargers definitely got a hit pick in McConkey. And they've definitely been way more competitive and successful than I thought they would be. But yeah, they're I think one more offseason away from being truly competitive.
I agree with that, but the concern here is if this is what they're not quite truly competitive is with this new coaching staff.
Yeah, it's looking damn
good. Lord, you have to look out for the rest of the division.
Yeah.
Like, my gosh.
Well, we all know Harbaugh, too. He's a guy who likes to pound the rock, and it didn't help when Dobbins got hurt.
Yeah.
For sure.
Mm-hmm. So, obviously, with that as in mind, I don't think there's a ton more that we'll kind of cover on that game, because I think we would probably want Robert's
anybody has any questions?
I have no questions. I got no questions.
Derrick Henry also continued to ball. He
balled out. What was it, 124 yards or something ridiculous?
140, yeah.
40.
140 yards, man.
Jack, as we transition here, we are going to bring in some help for you, a fan favorite, former member of the show who was at the game. I happened to join his live broadcast post-game to talk about my Broncos versus your Raiders. We're going to bring in Captain Jack to bring in his insight into the Raiders.
Long time no see.
Yeah. First off, it's good seeing you, gentlemen. Like I said, it was fun to have Richie on the show on Sunday. Jack was on our show last night when myself and Miss Peggy had a very heated argument about the future of the Raiders staff. And Alex, thank God you look good. Are you losing a little bit of weight? A little bit?
Maybe.
No?
I don't know.
I can see it in your face. I can see it in your face. So good to be here. And we're going to talk about the debacle. And by the way, I have to say congratulations to the Denver Broncos for sweeping the Raiders, something that they haven't done in, I don't know. Richie, you can say whatever, because we swept you guys for the last 4 or 5 years.
4 years.
Yeah. And it's always been where we won. And, so Denver beat the Raiders not just once this year, but twice. So they finally beat the Las Vegas Raiders. And it was good that they were getting good games. And the Raiders played them a decent game. And I'm not going to throw the officiating under the bus as much as the fact that the Raiders lost, because they really couldn't block their way out of a wet paper bag as far as against that Denver defense. But they were hitting that Denver defense occasionally with the occasional run.
Yeah, you were.
And I think the occasional run. But I think it's more along the lines of, if the Raiders could figure out that there are speedy receivers there that can actually maybe catch a ball. If you throw a 9 pattern at them, we got Tucker and Turner that can turn and burn. If Patrick Surtain is on the Raiders' best receiver, which is Bowers, then that should leave the other guys free on somebody else who's not quite up to Patrick Surtain's standards. And I don't know why. If you're going to throw an interception anyway, by the way, there are 3 things in life that you can always count on. It used to be 2. It used to be death and taxes. The third one is a Gardner Minshew interception at an inopportune time. So that's one thing you can always count
You can add
on.
that in, Cap. He's thrown an interception every single game this year. So,
and at inopportune times, or fumbled at an inopportune time, like against the Garglers, the very first game that led to a quick touchdown, or against the Rams, which led to a fumble 6. It's just when he does it, it's like, man, why are you doing just that? Hey, Alex, if you remember, the Raiders were close with the Chiefs, and it was a very close game. And what does Minshew do? He throws an interception.
He garnered all over the game.
He garnered.
So, Captain, there's a few things with regards to your comments there. Denver's secondary, especially this year, and I expect us to actually build on that in the offseason.
Oh, they're good.
Well.
They're very good.
There is no longer this incredible, gap between Surtain and the number 2 and 3.
Yeah, I had to say that because we said it at the same time. Thanks, God.
Yes, that's exactly it, right? But before, you a lot of the times, the Broncos had one good corner, and then the other guys were just being put in good spots, so they looked.
Yeah, it was Champ Bailey and whoever, or it was Harris and whoever.
No, when Harris was here, Aqib Talib was on the other side. Those two were stellar. That's not the great example, but we often had Surtain when he was here before, for example. You had Mathis on the other side. Well, he was getting eaten alive because Mathis is certainly not at the same caliber as, say, Pat Surtain, for example. And so now all of a sudden you end up with Riley Moss, who has had one heck of a season. You have Pat Surtain, and then you got McMillian, who's been amazing this year as well. And then you got a couple other guys, including Mathis, who stepped in spot times and moments and actually played well. So you have a really good bench of secondary players at the cornerback position, just specifically in terms of what I'm talking about there. And so one of the things that the Raiders did was they only really had success in that game when they were mismatching their wide receivers with some of their scheme, where the corners were actually not the ones covering their receiver. all of the Raiders, or for the majority rather of the game, the Raiders were having corner on receiver, and they couldn't get open. You had no breakaway, like you couldn't break apart from the corners.
Well, it didn't help that they were thrown that, and I agree with you, Richie. Yeah. That is true, but it also didn't help that a lot of the passes to the wide receivers were behind the line of scrimmage, which means you're in a negative already. And if the coverage is tight, where are you going to go from that? And that's just stupid play call. And I will admit that the play call is a lot better.
They did. Yeah, against the third best, defensive back team in the league.
The play calling has gotten better since somebody. What did you say, Gonsby or Gonsby? Gonsby. I was just told about that last night. I said I like that. Since Gonsby's gone, it's gotten a lot better with Scott Turner with some help from Dad, and it's good that they did it. But what I'm saying is, if you have Patrick Surtain and somebody else, the somebody else is not as good as Patrick Surtain. So why not test him going down and using the speed? If the guy's on him, slant and go, okay? Because I think that our speed receivers might be a little bit quicker than your guys, even if they're good. If you got a speedy guy like Tucker and Turner, slant and go, or a double move,
Actually, the funny thing is your slants, what you're talking about there, that is actually one of Pat Surtain's weakest parts of his game.
Yeah, he found out from a certain pass with Devontae Adams a couple of years ago. So, I remember.
Right. And they did take advantage of the secondary defensive back, too.
They're not calling plays against – see, the problem is that the Denver Broncos had Surtain basically following Bowers.
And he did a great job, too, because he kept them down to just, 4 receptions, 38 yards.
Right.
But by doing that left, Jacoby Myers, he had a fantastic day.
Yes,
he had 10 catches for 121 yards.
But Jack, my point is that it eliminated Pat Surtain's weakness against the speedy receivers. That's my point. So Pat Surtain against I think Tucker or Myers, for example, just use
Myers is not a speed receiver, but
he's faster. Like he is still quick enough at a slant, and he's technically sound enough that he can cause dudes fit. He can cause dudes fits simply because he is a good receiver. Like you guys can talk about blowing up your team and doing all these things. Myers is a genuinely good receiver. He had a couple of plays where he was successful against my Broncos in Sunday's game, clearly showing that he's not a slouch. You just couldn't, you shouldn't just kind of kick him to the curb and say, oh, well. But the thing is that because we had Surtain follow Bowers is not fast enough. I'm not saying he's not technically sound enough. I'm not saying he's not good enough. He is just not fast enough or quick enough to juke a guy like Surtain. He can't do it. He just doesn't have the skill sets to do it because he's too big. And that's okay. He's a tight end. You don't expect him to be able to do that kind of stuff. But to Captain's point, and Jack, to kind of, I think what you were alluding to a little bit there as well, is if he doesn't have the speed to do it, then he's not gonna juke Surtain. And then Jack, to your point, and the reason why I think your receivers were struggling is the Broncos then freed up their faster, shiftier corners that do not get fooled or juked when it comes to slants and stuff. They had them on the speedier receivers for the most part. And I think that's why you saw less success than you would have preferred in that area of the Raiders game.
Yeah, like I said, and there was some of the people that was in the audience that decided to go because I made an appearance. Oh well. I know, and I appreciate that. I gave the Broncos their due. And again, the Broncos are a lot better than what I thought they would be this year. And I will say that the Garglers are just about what I thought they were, a team that is going to get better, but don't anoint them the crown of we're the best thing in the AFC West that's not named Kansas City. No, you're going to have to work for that. And it's gonna take a while for us, being the Raiders and our Raider Nation, to figure things out. It's gonna come up with another draft or two, and free agency where we build our offensive line. Although I really do like what we picked up offensive line wise in rounds 2 and round 3, we need to add to that. Okay, it's just going to take a little bit longer, and this division as a whole is looking like the AFC West, minus the inclusion of the Seahawks later on, of the 70s, where every team in that division was a primo team. And right now it is the Kansas City Chiefs. Giving your due. I didn't even call you the Smugs yet. Oh, I'm sorry, I just did.
Yeah. I haven't talked enough.
Yeah, exactly. The Kansas City Chiefs, which are the prime of the division. Although here's a slam for you, Alex, and this one's due. You guys have been winning ugly, but you're winning. Yeah. But eventually, I think it might catch up to you. I really think it might catch up. And again, that's no discontent. Right. That's just the way it is. You're winning when you need to win, but you can only do that for so long.
They said the same thing last year.
Yeah. Well, again, we'll see. And I don't foresee. I think your Thanksgiving is going to be better this year than your Christmas was last year. I'm just saying. You're gonna have, first off, you're gonna be full from the day before. Yeah. It's the day, but still, it's the whole Thanksgiving thing. Your Thanksgiving is going to be a hell of a lot better than your Christmas was last year, and it's because first off, you'll have that food in you, okay, and you'll have a team that will go out of its way to say, "Oh, we remember the last time you were in town." Okay, we remember that. And that's going to be another emphasis, kind of like, you won't have to do a ring around the rosy play. I think it's just going to be pure FU football. And with the Raiders not having the team that's up to it, even though they have a quarterback that did win last year, he's coming back after being out several weeks. He's rusty. They don't have the play calling that they did last year. And it's weird to say that a Josh McDaniels playbook, and I don't know, I can't even remember who the guy was that was calling the plays last year. I think Luke Getsy's playbook sucks so bad that even with the Turners trying to fine tune it to a point, I don't think they have enough gas. And I know the Raiders defense, which is a very good defense minus Wilkins not being there, that I tell you, that push without Wilkins exposes a bunch of different people. And it's unfortunate, but I think that you're going to have a very good.
It exposes your secondary.
Going to have a very good.
The secondary, but they're hurt.
No. But the thing is that when you have interior defensive line pressure, and Alex can attest to this for sure, and this is Kate has done this for the last 3, almost 4 years now, where they've kind of built slowly that defensive line around Chris Jones. Chris Jones has been the staple, top 1 or 2 dudes in the league in terms of interior pass rush. I don't even think that's debatable. But then you add Karlaftis, and then you add, all these additional pieces all throughout the draft. They're all getting home to the quarterback now because they're starting to mature, because they're starting to learn from Chris Jones. And Chris Jones is more than willing to impart knowledge on those guys because he's already got his Brinks truck and a half. So he doesn't he's not sitting there saying, no, I have to be, well, he's got it twice now, right? 100%.
Yeah.
But the point is that he's shown, and the team has shown him, and I think it's actually more important, the second comment rather than the first, the team has shown him that they value his services and are willing to pay him what he deserves, given his production. And so he has no problem imparting all that knowledge.
A little bit of a holdout, but yeah.
Well, I mean, any
sit
team
out one game, but
but any team is going to.
I'll show you.
Yeah. Well, any team is going to kind of try to save what they can, but eventually they paid him what he was worth, and he came back, and proof is in the pudding, so to speak. You're 10-1. I mean,
exactly.
Come on now. So. But just on, I do want to pull up Clayton's comment here. Yeah, there's a lot to be excited about in Broncos country. I'm not going to lie. Bo Nix has definitely shown very substantial growth, specifically in the last 3 games.
Yeah,
Specifically. Now, what I will say is we saw yet another one of his protection snafus, if you will, against the Raiders. He got sacked for a loss into the backfield. I can't remember it was Jack Jones, who actually played fairly well for the Raiders. I can't believe those 2 words actually went together and came out of my mouth. But he actually had a pretty good game against my Broncos on Sunday, generally speaking, for at least in the first half. But Bo Nix needs to learn to adjust protections better. That will start to come as he starts to see more and do more. So I'm gonna pump the brakes a little bit on being too critical. But if you're gonna start the guy and throw him into the fire and want him to start actually winning games, he's gonna need to take those leaps and steps forward. And I'm hoping that he can continue to do so, because we've seen improvement already, quick improvement, I might add. But we need to see more of it as we go forward. And I do want to make one very clear comment to Clayton on that comment here at the bottom. I can agree that we should be pretty pumped. We should be pretty excited. Yes, the defense is playing out of their minds, which, by the way, I did call at the beginning of the season and in the offseason, way before the season started, that our defense is going to be much better than people think. Bo Nix, yes, he is playing outstanding football, but I would argue the beginning portion of the year, not so much. Certainly playing way better now.
But that's why you do that.
Yeah, well, and again, it's a risk, and the risk that you take is, one, you hope that he progresses the way that he has. So awesome, good for us. However, there is the flip side, and this is, we'll never know because we never did the thing. Some quarterbacks learn just as well by assessing the game on film and saying, what would I have done? And then they step on and they don't make those early mistakes, because the risks that you do run with those early errors is you kind of get into the Sam Darnold mode of, I see ghosts and I'm going to basically tank the rest of my career as a result.
Well, it's a good thing you guys didn't do that. I'll tell you that right now.
And look, that's cool. And that's great.
I mean, he's in the talk of, rookie of the year. He's in that conversation now.
Well,
he's in a combo, but again, I got to jump here because Richie and I have discussed this. He's in the conversation along with the quarterback from DC, who's in the conversation. But if you go conversation on conversation, 2 quarterbacks that are viable for rookie of the year candidates. Yes, I am saying this, but I'm trying to say this as unbiasedly as possible. If you have a tight end that continues to ascend to maybe be the best rookie tight end ever, that's better than Mike Ditka. Again, he needs the games to continue to do that. But if you are the best rookie tight end historically in football and have better numbers than a Hall of Famer, I would say, how can you not have Bowers as your rookie of the year? Yes, he's got to continue to do it.
So I would agree with that, but unfortunately, it's more. I think it's more of a pass rusher or quarterback award. It's the same thing with the MVP. It's just
I get it, but it's bad. But if you have somebody that's historical, and you're saying that he's not rookie of the year, that's bullshit. And it's like I said, Bo Nix,
be in the conversation.
Daniels,
yes, he should be in the conversation.
He should be in the conversation. There's zero, literally, I will be the first person to say his name needs to be, on the board. Okay.
Yeah.
However, there's a few other things that, and this is probably just the fact that I'm a Broncos fan, so I kind of know some of these things, right? But it is what it is. Bo Nix in his last, 4 games, has gone 18 touchdowns to 2 interceptions.
Yeah.
Bad. That is, as a rookie.
I don't know. I think it's Jaden Daniels to lose, because look at what he's done in flipping around the Commanders. Broncos are still kind of where they were last year, and same with the Raiders. So, it's
Broncos are not where they were last year. They're way better than But I will say this.
I mean, record-wise, it's going to end up about the same, in my opinion.
To support, what Captain just said on Bowers, it seems like every week, when we come on the show, I always bring up a new record that he has. So he set another couple records this week against the Broncos. So in the way of Raiders all-time history for 11 games, he's got 74 receiving, receptions. He passed up Amari Cooper at 72. And all-time, he passed up the great Jerry Rice, who had 73 as a rookie. So again, I think I agree with Captain. If he's going to be there, there's always a quarterback, there's always a defensive end. But again, if he's going to be breaking every single record, and when he finishes the season, and if he does break Dicta's record, then yeah, I think he's even and beyond what the quarterback's doing. Unless you're setting quarterback rookie records themselves.
Well, he is actually
not just being the best, not the best as a rookie quarterback, but if you're breaking the rookie records for all quarterbacks, then that would be something different.
Well, sure. The one thing you are getting from him, Bo Nix, right now, and he's starting to enter into some of those sorts of conversations now. He isn't dominating like Bowers is per se, but he's certainly entering into some of those conversations. So as it stands right now, he's won Offensive Player of the Week, which is setting records for Broncos franchise history and setting himself into rare air as a rookie in terms of quarterback. So like 1 of 2, 2 of 3, that kind of stuff. The other thing he's entered in with his current stats and progress, and this is coming from someone who was actually quite skeptical of starting Bo Nix right away. And I maintain that I had valid reasons for being concerned, but I'm obviously pleasantly surprised with the progress that he's made. So I'm not going to deny and ignore what my previous suggestions were, but I also think that anyone worth their salt in analyzing things is going to say that, even in modern NFL, you're still running a risk by throwing a guy into the fire because very few of them truly work out that way. In terms of going on to Super Bowl success, I'm not saying they won't have success. I mean Super Bowl success. But when you look at Bo Nix, he's now one of 4 quarterbacks in I think since the 2000s to end up in a 4-game stretch as a rookie with something approximating 18-2 as a TD to turnover or pick ratio. And if he continues on the trajectory he's at, that gap in terms of the margin between touchdowns and turnovers is seemingly actually widening as the games go on instead of, starting to tightening up. And also with regards to your Jaden Daniels comment compared to Bo Nix, and this isn't just because I'm a Broncos fan, it is a reason, but not just because I'm a Broncos fan, is when you look from week 5 on, Bo Nix has generally outperformed Jaden Daniels in most games.
That's facts. Yeah, Jaden Daniels, he's kind of going the opposite direction right now.
He started off really well, and he's kind of come back down to earth as the season's gone on.
Yeah, but I think a lot
started off poor, and he's gone up on like a very, very steep trajectory upwards.
A lot of that, though, Richie, I think is the Kingsbury effect. Kingsbury, even when he was a coach of the Cardinals were always like, their first 8 games, they would win like 5 of them. It'd be like 5-3, and they would be ascending to the midway point of the season. It's the drop off, and even the guys on CBS, I can't remember who was doing their game before I went to the stadium. They're saying that the way that the Commanders are playing, they've hit that peak and they're going down. They're playing worse, and it's the offense. They said they need to have Kingsbury afterburner or Kingsbury 2.0 because people have figured out what they had in the first half of the season. So that's why Jaden Daniels' numbers have gone down, is because the offense as a whole has gone down, and why the Commanders, who had that really good first half of the season, need to continue to do something to improve on that. And when you lose to Dallas, and I didn't see the game, people were telling me about it. When you lose to Dallas on a touchdown at the very end of the game, that's an indictment of the whole team, but it's also an indictment that the offense isn't scoring as much points as it needs to. And then when you go on the field, your friggin' kicker misses once or twice. That's unfortunate.
Especially considering it was 13-9 with 6 minutes left.
Yes.
It's bad too.
Jack, I think that's what Kingsbury, that's his Achilles heel. I think he has so much.
Good until you get tape.
No, I think he's kind of got.
You just can't say Jack. You got to say Cap or Jack.
Well, no, but I think, Captain, I think to that point there, what you're basically got here is Kingsbury has got a bit of a fig jam in the mirror look. He looks at himself in the mirror.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's like.
I don't think it's. I mean, I think it's his offense. He does a lot of the same stuff, just over and over again. Like, look at was it first or second year in Arizona? They were 10-0 or what 9-0.
Yeah.
And then, and it's just what it is because he's like a short screen RPO guy, and it's just the more you do that, the easier it is for a defense to know when it's coming and react.
Right, but that's what I'm getting at is that what he can do is live off of those, as Jack was saying, right? You let those initial burners do their thing and get yourself that 5 to 7 wins at the very beginning of the season out of say like 10 games and own it. But come like week 3, you need to lock yourself in a room on the weekends and assess your offense and say, all right, were we close to getting owned there? Where did that defense stop us? And actually self-reflect on your own offense. And or even if you're incapable of self-reflecting, at least sit there and start redesigning new plays to start introducing into the playbook in the mid-season mark to start, ebbing and flowing your offense, right? I mean, Alex, I look no further than your team, the Kansas City Chiefs, for doing exactly that. Okay, like
always evolving, Casey.
Like I'm sorry, but like I have to point back to your team.
How I answered why they win games.
Yeah, but that's the thing is like you need to look no further than the 2-time Super Bowl champs, the Kansas City Chiefs.
It's more
for
than
that.
Well, the back-to-back champs is what he meant.
Back-to-back, yeah.
I know what he meant because they have.
I did too, but Mahomes just won 3. I just wanted to get that out there.
No, but this is my point, though, is that your team – I'm going to skim over that, Alex, just because I can but this is what your team does best, is they introduce new plays and they mix things up as the year goes on. The other team that did that really well, as much as we love to hate them, is the New England Patriots when they're going through their Super Bowl run. They would always introduce these wrinkles into their offensive playbooks, especially later in the season, and it was always the comment saying, my gosh, did Belichick just pull out a play from the 60s?
No, it was McDaniels who actually did some when he was an OC.
McDaniels did that, but McDaniels did that, but Belichick as the de facto, green light, red light guy was the one that allowed it to happen, right? And so,
I got you.
Yeah. And McDaniels forgot all about that stuff. He left it all in New England because when he came over to the Raiders, all that stuff went away.
And
that happens to all the coaches once they get out from the hoodies. Yeah, when they get out from the hoodie.
Well, Tom Brady.
Yeah, well, it's McDaniels. It's the pencil guy with the beard.
Patricia.
Yeah, Patricia.
Brian Flores. Yeah.
Brian Flores. Brian Flores, I think, is an exception in the fact that he actually did well. He was submarine. He was submarined a bit.
I think the other guy, Judge, the Giants had.
Yeah, Joe Judge. Yeah. Hell, you can even say Mangini.
I'm trying to think Charlie Weiss.
Charlie Weiss,
Cornell,
Mangini,
Romeo, pretty much all of them. Mangini. The only guy you couldn't say that about was Vrabel, but Vrabel didn't really.
Vrabel wasn't from the coaching tree,
but he wasn't. Yeah, he wasn't from the coaching
tree. He was a player, and that's the only reason why I think that he shakes that is because he wasn't under the tree. he went away and was his own dude. And Vrabel, like I said, is going to come back as a head coach when somebody figures out where that opening is going to be for next year.
I think so. And sorry, I just want to have one last comment there on my Broncos in that game. On the comment there, offensive line.
I don't think I don't think your offensive line did well. Because Nix was running around for his friggin' life, and that was. And thank you. I'm glad you were going to say. And Richie, I swear I'll say this, and then you do your point. The Raiders let him off. Yeah, I know. Hey, I'm allowed. Come on, a lot. I got to do this, right? He was running for his life, and the Raiders let him off because they were sitting in zone. When he's running for his life, you better figure out how to. And Peggy loved her to death. She made this point last night. You better learn how to go zone to man when all they're doing is finding the spots in the zone. I'm looking at the field from my corner end zone spot and said, that dude's open. That dude's open. That dude's, and I can see it. And granted, I got a great vantage point, but the O-line was getting shellacked, but they were let off the hook because after 5-6 seconds with Nix running around with his pants on fire, he found somebody that was sitting in the zone for the catch. Go ahead, Richie. I'm sorry. I had to jump on that.
Well, you saw yet again both tackles for the Broncos getting destroyed.
Yes.
You saw Garrett Bowles getting absolutely just mauled. McGlinchey had 4 penalties in the first quarter and a half.
That's the dude Notre Dame lineman.
That is so bad. That is so bad.
Yeah.
I mean,
and we wanted him too.
That's 30. That's 30, almost 40 yards that you've given up in penalties as a single lineman. That can actually tank a game. When you give up 40 yards as a lineman as in penalties for a single lineman, that can legitimately tank a game for you. I mean, that is
did
bad.
only give up 1 sack though, so I mean, it wasn't the Max Crosby. So I mean, that's somewhat
we had a Tyree Wilson signing. I should say.
Yeah.
Well, look at the tackle for losses in that game. I think there's 6 or 7 tackles for losses. I mean, they kept the Broncos to 63 rushing yards. And the Raiders are horrible at rushing. They actually had 69 yards. So, I mean, it's crazy that we actually outrushed another team.
But
we outrushed the Broncos?
Yes, you did.
Yeah, we got more yards than the Broncos.
63.
Yeah.
My goodness.
You had more offensive yards and total.
But I know we had more offensive yards, but I didn't realize that we outrushed them too. I mean, again, because I was a little bit involved, so I'm glad Jack has the stats. I get so involved watching at times.
We also had negative run plays, Captain, which is what you're probably.
That's what I'm saying. There's 6 or 7 tackles for loss.
What Jack didn't complete his thought in which would have been helpful to kind of factor everything in. When you get 4 or 5 yards tackle for loss.
Yeah, the TFLs.
That negates some of those bigger run plays that you saw, like McLaughlin break off for that 18-yard run and that 11-yard run. Well, all of a sudden, that's now not an 11-yard run; that's a 6-yard run.
Yeah. Well, maybe that's why I didn't realize
get tackled behind the line of scrimmage. If you
don't
want to dude. Javonte Williams with 8 carries, -2. That's tough.
Yeah, that is. But let's talk about tackles for loss for a half a second. Another record that's out there. Max Crosby, #1 in the league since 2019 for tackles for loss, and there's only 2 guys in the same amount of games out there. Was J.J. Watt and Aaron Donald. So third fastest player in NFL history for tackles for loss, getting to 100.
Yeah, but that doesn't surprise me at all.
I know it doesn't.
I'm gonna let your audience off the hook because there's only so much of me to go around. Although, Alex, if you care to spar maybe next Wednesday, I would. And Richie, I appreciated the invite. It's nice. Again, I leave you in the capable. I leave you in the capable hands of that guy. I got to remember the backwards thing. And again, Jack, thank you for representing Raider Nation on this fine show.
I'm keeping the seat warm for you, Cap. So whenever you're ready.
See, you got your niche, man. I'm a guest. I'm a guest that comes in for happiness and little bit of things. And but so that's why maybe I can do another week where we could talk about it's gonna be fugly on Friday. It's gonna be fugly. And yes, I will make it.
You can't leave. You got to give a score prediction.
It's gonna be fugly. It's gonna be way too much versus
Way too little.
way too little. That is. Hey, numbers don't. Those are the numbers. Way too effing much, and I'm still trying to keep it clean. Versus way too small against Kansas City this Friday. That's my prediction. Just like when Clubber Lang said, "What's your prediction?" I predict pain. That's what I predict. That's it. That's the best prediction. And again,
so
Richie, thanks for having me on.
Get whooped, huh?
Yeah, it's going to be bad. It's going to be bad. But but you know what? I'm a sadomasochist when it comes to my team. I love my team. I'm going to watch them as much as possible, and I'll be there. So I will at least be able to talk intelligently. It's different when you do watch your team on TV because you can see things that you can't when you're in the stadium, which is why
You going to KC or no?
Oh hell no. And Alex, it's not because of the fans there are pretty decent. The fans there are pretty decent.
Security.
Thank you. That's the reason why. And if I go to KC once again, I'm going to have to tag with a couple of the people that dress up as well. The same thing I'm going to do in LA if I ever go back is I'm going to tag with the people that dress, and I'm going to say, see, I almost said it. F with me. Why are you effing with me when I got all of this around me? So it's the security thing. But I already got my tickets punched. Richie, I'm going to say this to you. When I ain't going back to Denver for a while, and it's not because of security. It's because Richie is a cool Bronco fan because he's Canadian. Mr. Heron is a cool Broncos fan because he's from Wisconsin. It's a difference of the mentality. And even the Broncos fans that were there, and we had a chance to talk with them on our show, they're not the nicest overall to Raider fans. And I get it, but it you know what? Sucks being them. And again, congratulations, Richie, on your victory.
Before you go,
Before
you go, I just wanted to let you know, because I think your reaction would be great. I have 1.5 feet of snow coming tomorrow and the next day across the 2 days here.
Yeah.
Curious in your thoughts on that.
Yeah, you can have it.
Right?
You can have it. See, and I bring you more people because this young lady asked me if I was having a show tonight, and I said no. But if you go to MHRT Network on YouTube, I will be there for a quick second. So I bring you Miss Lydia Paula Bustos, my lady, and she's not by you, Richie, because she's not by Canada.
Hello, my lady.
Hello. We can do the Jerry Seinfeld.
Hello.
And we're bringing folks around again. Thank you, Lydia, for coming in. Lydia Paula, a wonderful gal. And we had Dory. Dory was in here earlier, too. Love Dory.
Yeah, don't share that, Rick.
Yeah. By the way, Rick, maybe one of these, like I said, Rick and I have an appointment to go to the
Rick, I want to go where you're at.
Go to Pearl Harbor. I will say that it's getting a little cold here. It's getting into the 60s.
Oh, poor you.
Yeah, I know.
Tank top and shorts, my man. Tank top and shorts. That's all I got to say.
I feel for you, Cap. I hate when it gets in the 60s.
I'm in shorts. And I wanted to show you my other portion of the room because did a remodel of there was a remodel on the desk. No more Josh Jacobs. This is Marcus Allen. But hopefully I'll get a chance to show you guys another time.
The Chiefs running back, Marcus Allen?
No, the Raiders Hall of Fame running back, Marcus Allen. This is the Marcus Allen Raider football. I'm just saying. But again, guys, I appreciate the line, and it's been fun. Jack, good on you.
We'll be talking again, bro.
Have a good Thanksgiving, Cap.
Everybody have a good Thanksgiving. Take care, guys. Always a pleasure. You be well.
Good seeing you again.
Thanks again. Take care. I'm not hitting the button or any buttons I'm supposed to hit.
Not the red button.
Don't let Alex hit any buttons.
I was looking.
Too, so.
I was looking. I'm going to hit the X at the top or the leave studio button, but that's it. That's where I'm not hitting anything else.
Do not.
I'm going to hit the one on the top. That's it. Happy Thanksgiving to everybody. You guys take care. Thank you. And see, Dory's here too. So
we'll see
I bring you good-looking ladies. You better be, Jack. There's somebody has to be here for the Raiders. Y'all take care, guys. We'll see.
I know when you leave, we'll see if I'm still here because I'm on your channel.
You got to be here. You got to have something on my channel. Goodbye, guys. We'll see you.
So just real quick again on the offensive line stuff.
I made it.
Okay, we're here. All right, fantastic. Okay.
Made it to the other dimension.
So, just on a side note there, you saw McGlinchey getting pretty hammered pretty regularly by the Raiders. You saw Garrett Bowles. He wasn't called out by the announcers, but I simply just think he's paying them off. I have no other way of explaining it because the dude's just getting absolutely destroyed, and no one seems to call him out from the booth. I just don't get it.
They get 5% of his game check.
Yeah. I don't know. Like it's crazy. And then
don't bring me up.
And then the funny thing is that they call out that Powers is having a great year, and then on the very next play he gets thrown to the backfield and thrown onto his rear. So I don't really know if the announcers and I are watching the same games, but Powers is having some good games and some bad games. But the problem is that when you're getting paid in the upper tier of the NFL at your position, those good games
need to perform
they need to be like the anomaly where you have bad games.
You need to not be talked about.
Yeah, like exactly.
Joe Tooney.
Well, I'm kind of curious. What is like their contracts? Because I know next year you guys are going to be all in on going on tackle.
Got a lot. I think he got a pretty good contract. He's probably about out of it though. I mean,
a lot of them are at the
tackle Bowles.
So Bowles is cheaper to cut than to keep. If I'm not mistaken.
What about McGlinchey?
McGlinchey is in that weird year. He's in that weird year where it's like you can decide to pull a Russell Wilson a little bit and eat a little bit more dead cap just because the dude's trash. But the problem is that how are you going to fill both tackle positions in 1 year?
Yeah, that's well. You got to keep Bowles. I mean, as a Notre Dame guy, and I know the Raiders wanted McGlinchey, but they lost the coin toss with the Niners, and the Niners got him, and so the Raiders actually traded back and they got Miller. So they went back 5 spots, got an extra third, and they got Miller, which overall that's turned out to be a way better pick. But yeah, I never thought he would be playing this poor. And from what just week in and week out I hear you say about him, I'm glad the Raiders didn't get him.
Well, the dude had 4 penalties for something like 40 yards or something. Like it was
four for 44. You guys were 6 for 58.
Sorry, I missed the extra 4. Forgive me, but I mean, like that's still awful. I mean, that's
it's actually not bad. I'll take it.
4 penalties for 44 yards.
I mean, compared to
if you're the opponent. If I'm the opponent, I'll take the right tackle giving me 44 yards a game.
Yeah,
please. Yeah, thanks. Let's start there. Like, that's
that
great.
was just a bad sign.
Well, no, you meant to say for your tackles that was 6 for 58.
Pardon me?
Your team had 6 penalties for 58 yards.
Yes,
or you were going to say all four penalties were against McGlinchey.
He literally had 3 penalties in like the first quarter.
Yeah, that's not good.
At 10 yards a pop. Like that is not good.
Yeah.
I don't know how else to say it.
He wasn't even good before he got his contract though. I mean, that was just in the Russ next year, let's spin like crazy, bring in guys, so it's a bad signing.
McGlinchey had some tangibles that would have been okay if the Broncos stuck with zone run block, like an outside zone run blocking scheme, where McGlinchey is okay. I'm not saying he's fantastic, but he's a better run blocker than a
pass
blocker.
Yeah.
So he can't pass block, but he can run block, and he can run block while moving, and he's good at outside zone because he's a lighter tackle. Like he doesn't have the lower anchor to him that some of these other guys have that allow them to kind of anchor themselves and move guys out of the way. So he's better as an outside zone blocker. Cool, that's fine. You do you. But the problem is that we're not really running outside zone anymore. We're running a Sean Payton kind of hybrid style, which requires more of a power style offensive lineman. And Alex, you can attest to
it makes a huge difference what your style is.
That's
you're talking
for sure. Different body types. Yeah. You're talking different builds. Like all of the things are just totally different. And what makes a guy like Quinn Miners so unique is he's built for the power, but he can run zone.
Well, that's the key. If you can get an offensive lineman that does both. I mean, Gonsby, look what he's done. He did the zone blocking scheme, and we don't have a zone running back in the way of Zeus. He's a power running back. And it just does, it's never meshed the whole year. I mean, Parham's only 290 pounds. I mean, yeah, he's better for the zone. Whitehair was meant to be better for the zone. And these guys can't even do that. So,
right. But
so
but anyways,
but I will say this, what do you think of the special teams?
Yeah,
I'll say the best quarterback of the whole week was our punter AJ Cole. He had 118 QBR.
Well, yeah, he threw a nice ball. I have to give Diablo a great credit there.
I think that's his first reception.
Good catch, held it high and tight. Okay, like so far so good. This is he was on track for a good little stretch.
He got 34,
and he got a good little return on that as well. So credit where credit's due. But again, it's only going to make so much of a difference when you then go back up against the defense, who then clobber you, and that's that's where your offensive line really needs to step up or be filled out to better fit your team.
And I agree that, and I felt the pain. You guys only gave up one sack. You had a lot of tackles for loss, or we got a lot of tackles for loss, but you guys got 5 sacks. So we're letting that penetration through, and we are feeling on that side of the ball as well. So it was a good competitive game up until about 5 minutes left.
One of our best defensive players wasn't even playing.
Well, yeah, and also one of your other best defensive players, earlier in the season, and I forgot the kid's name, that linebacker that you have that was on a horrid pace in the way of just tearing up the league. But I feel the same way.
Singleton was the linebacker who was an absolute beast at the inside linebacker position. So I mean, he's insane, and we haven't really missed a beat. Well, some of the things that he does, you can totally tell we're missing him, but we've been able to rejig things to make it so that it's not as glaring as a whole as it otherwise would have been. Because Singleton's a tackling machine. Singleton just lives to hit someone, like that. He wakes up in the morning and probably tackles the bedpost or something. The dude is just a beast.
He is. I mean, I was comparing him to Robert Spillane, and I'm like, I was looking at some of the numbers, and I'm like, Spillane was on a tear, and Singleton actually was doing better than Spillane. Yeah.
Yeah, and then we were missing one of our top interior defensive linemen in Zach Allen, who is he's basically having an All-Pro or close to an All-Pro season in terms of his general stats. He is really, really doing well, and it's unfortunate because I think he would have made an even bigger impact on that game, because when you have an offensive line that struggles against some of that interior pressure, which is really where the weak spot is on your offensive line, is kind of the guards. And you also have a rookie center. He's good, don't get me wrong, but he's still a rookie. He's still learning little nuances and stuff like that, right? So he's gonna, give him a year, right? Give him this year to get better, and then all of a sudden you're gonna start seeing some improvement there. And even JPJ made a few rookie mistakes by kind of doing.
Yeah, but I love his aggressive play. I mean, he did get a couple penalties against us for being too aggressive. So he does need to harness it a little bit.
Yeah, he needs to take that aggressiveness and learn to like repackage it to fuel it in the game as opposed to just let it go raw.
Agreed.
And in fact, if I'm going to give you an example of a dude that I think he can model his game after, I think he should look at Quinn Miners, the Denver Broncos guard. That's a dude that plays angry, but typically doesn't do dumb crap. Right? Like that's what you're trying to avoid. You want the guy that plays angry and the guy just throws dudes around and off the ball, but you don't want him to go so hog wild that he gets called for the extracurriculars.
Correct.
Right.
I agree. Well, that's a rookie. That's a rookie center for you right there.
Yeah. But anyways, overall, obviously the Broncos struggled a little bit at first. We made our adjustments, and then we kind of came back with a fire in our belly, if you will, and kind of started to push the game to being a point where, it was pretty inevitable at that point. You kind of knew where the game was going.
Well, it was a great game. I mean, it was a close game up until about 5 minutes left in the fourth quarter. And Minshew does what Minshew does and throws a ball to
Gardner's.
There's no Raider player near it. It was directly going, hey, there's a Bronco. Let's just throw it to him. And then having a turnover as well. Once Ritter, and he got hurt, Ritter comes in and then he fumbles. I mean, it really wasn't a fumble. His arm got chopped, and so that was a fumble from that, but it wasn't a fumble. So that really did the Raiders in. The game was close. I think we were 5 points, about 5 minutes left. And then, of course, with the turnovers, then that's where the Broncos took advantage of it and just then walked all over. So the score is not really relevant in the way of what the game was really like in the way the game played. And I like the fact, and that's what the Raiders have been doing the last 3 or 4 weeks, is they're playing this type of game when they get towards the end, key turnovers, every single. Look it up. They're the worst ranked team in the NFL in the way of turning the ball over, and a lot of them are just coming at just really bad times. I mean, the Raiders got in the red zone 5 times, and credit to your defense, we only got 1 score.
So, Jack, this is one of the things that kind of came out on the MHRT network. Credit to the 5280 podcast yesterday. I completely agree with this. The one thing that has separated my Denver Broncos from years past, and Alex, you can attest to this, but it's been a while for you guys, but you can attest to this from the old Kansas City Chiefs in terms of in your pre-rebuild and trajectory where you are now, is you'd have a bunch of games and you'd be really close. And due to coaching, more often than not, you'd kind of find a way of losing. Right. Like, you know what I mean? Like, and it's like, you're competitive, but like your team just couldn't quite bring it over the finish line, seemingly because something went wrong and there wasn't enough glue there to hold the team together to kind of stop the sieve from breaking or stop the dam from breaking and holding back the water, right? That's actually probably the best analogy, is that you're a dam trying to hold back water. You make a mistake, and rather than letting that one pinhole break the dam, you got to quickly patch that crap before the dam breaks, and you can actually keep the dam together and then get the turbines running again, right? Well, the issue here is that I'm finding the Raiders being kind of where the Broncos were like a year or two ago, where, and I have to put this on AP, I'm sorry, because I
agree. Coach. Richie, I'm right there with you.
Is the good teams like the Andy Reids over here, I will point at Sean Payton for my Denver Broncos. They don't allow the wheels to come off the wagon when it matters most. A mistake is made.
The wheels on the bus don't go round and round.
No, they do. But the problem is they never fall off.
Not for the Raiders, because if you look at our Broncos and Raider games, both of them, Patrick Surtain, our first game with that pick 6,
yes,
killed the game. That interception that you guys got with 5 minutes left killed the game. And again, we're the exact opposite of what Alex's team is, which KC always finds a way to win. Raiders, they always find a way to lose.
Right.
Hey, cool Kev.
And it's the best teams or the good teams that are well coached, that they have the bad plays occur, but they shrug them off. and they come back out and they get right back in it. Look at Mahomes and the Chiefs. They throw an interception. The other team might even come down and get a field goal or a touchdown. And then Andy Reid and Mahomes are like, enough of that nonsense. And they come right back and march down the field, and they chew the clock, and they do all that kind of stuff, and they come back with a touchdown. The best teams and the good teams, the ones that are well coached, I look at the Chargers this year. I look at my Broncos this year as well. Keep in mind that as it stands right now, the Broncos and the Chargers actually have the same number of wins at 7, right? The only difference right now, and the only reason why the Chargers are actually ahead of the Broncos is, one, we lost to the Chargers, which is unfortunate. So hopefully we can kind of correct that the next time we play. But also the fact that Chargers have had a bye week and my Broncos haven't yet. And so our records haven't equalized. So we'll have to wait and see what happens here. But as it stands, is the Chargers and Broncos are like literally like 1A and 1B, or 2A and 2B, if you will, in terms of the division. We're all trying to chase the Chiefs, and there's no denying that.
Mm-hmm.
But look at the top 3 in our division, Jack. 10 wins, 7 wins, and 7 wins.
It's amazing.
Like, that is a top shelf division by any metric at this point in the season. Okay? Like, top tier division. And
sure, we thought it would be 3 years ago.
Alex, when
right?
we kind of first kicked things off, you and I were both kind of in this position saying, hey, we got the potential to do the thing, and kind of the wheels fell off the bus, right, in terms of all the other teams except for the Chiefs. But we did think that at some point we were going to be able to do it. But anyways, it is what it is. Moving on to this upcoming week, Alex, we're going to throw to you first.
Well, me
your
and
game.
Jack.
Yep.
Well, you and Jack, right?
Yeah. The
Black Friday.
Special.
Yep.
Yeah.
Wait a minute. There's a pun in there somewhere.
Somewhere. I'll leave it up to you guys to find it.
Well, actually, no, here. I mean, this is really the perfect analogy. It's going to be Black Friday, and we all know that in true Raider fashion, the Raiders will take silver. Oh, come on. That was good. That was good.
Okay, I got
all right.
The Raiders guys got to give you his input on that.
Hey, it's silver and black, but as long as there's a silver lining, you know what? This is another week. I hope it's a Black Friday special when you're buying Christmas gifts, so we revert back to last Christmas.
Yeah, there we go. It is in Arrowhead. I mean, I don't think that it will be a what did Cap call it?
A blowout, pretty much.
He had a more elegant way to say that, but
I don't agree with him either.
I do think the Chiefs win, but I don't think it'll be a blowout. I mean, week 8 it was 27-20 in Vegas, and I mean these games are always close. I think the Chiefs right now are
12.5-point favorite.
Yeah,
which they haven't covered the spread. I don't think the whole year. So
no, but I think I could see him win. I think my final prediction's like 27-17. Like I could see him winning, by 10 points at most, but I don't think it's any more than that.
Jack, where's your secondary at? Are any of them coming back?
Hobbs, from what I've heard, is still out. Of course, Jack Jones is playing and Bennett's playing. So we got two starters. We got two starters back. Right. Jack Jones kind of has. I was watching this wonderful play, on Instagram today.
He did pick 6
from last Christmas.
On Christmas. Yeah.
Yep. I'm hoping it's going to be that Black Friday special.
He got Aiden O'Connell back, so maybe we'll see another 63 passing yards from him.
Well, I was going to say last year he didn't do anything against the Chiefs. It was all the defense that did it all. So it'll be interesting to see what he actually does.
Turnovers in the span of not even 30 seconds a game clock. It really kind of did it. But yeah, I mean, the Raiders' defense is banged up. Secondary is banged up. I think Mahomes can come out and kind of build off of what he's done the past couple weeks throwing the ball. But I mean, it's still an AFC West game. Like, it's still a long history-ridden rivalry. Like, these games are always close. regardless of where both teams are at. So I
agree.
don't see this being any different. I just think that the Chiefs will pull it out in the end, but it's not going to be a clobber fest like
that's the MO.
represented.
Chiefs always pulling it out, Raiders always losing it out at the end.
Yeah.
So I agree with you. I'm on the same page with that.
Yeah,
I think it's good.
Things
And
to
I think
watch.
this is a game where Max, I think Max likes, tackling Mahomes. I just think out of anyone in the league, I just think he loves
Those
that.
two go at it. Yeah, no doubt.
Have you ever watched his show? He's got his own podcast called The
never.
Rush.
Why would I do that?
I don't. Well, it's just because he's got behind him, he's got a painting of him hitting Mahomes.
Yeah,
it's him and Mahomes.
Oh no, they've both talked about
that doesn't surprise me at all.
Competitiveness. That they go at each other the whole time they're out there. They're always talking, and we've seen it documented, on cameras, but even off. Like, I know they both talk about it, so it's a fun. That's the fun. Game within the game, so to speak, is how they watch it. But I think one thing to watch from the Chiefs' perspective is, and I do apologize. I think it was Rick I misspoke to, but yeah, Pacheco. I don't think they've activated him off the list yet, but he is a full participant. And Reed, all signs are indicating he's playing. It just hasn't been confirmed, but that's definitely one thing to watch if they're able to have kind of a healthy 1-2 punch at running back, and how they use that, to kind of facilitate the offense. And honestly, that's the way you got to counter Max Crosby is have a good running game and not really give him the opportunities to be out there, just teeing off on the tackles and getting to Mahomes.
So do you see Pacheco then being kind of like for this game, if he is activated, as kind of like the third down running back? That's one of the questions I said I'd.
Honestly, I think, you got to consider the fact he had a pretty good injury. So it's not like they're going to just bring him out and say, here's 25 carries,
No. And Kareem Hunt's.
I think with the fact that we saw Kareem Hunt be able to, game manage his way kind of through this a little bit, just be effective enough. I think that they can kind of move forward with, something similar to how like Detroit does it, where Kareem will do the hard work, carries to just grind out 2-3 yards and keep the ball moving, bring Pacheco in for that change of pace, potential big explosive run. Cause that's just been the downside with Kareem is he's not explosive. I think he has one run over 10 yards, maybe two now. But for the most part, he's like, give him the ball. He's going to fall forward for 3. And I think to have both of those options in this offense moving forward will only help things and help open things up. And in the long run, should help alleviate some of the tackle issues too, if they're able to effectively run, every game. And so this will be, kind of a good first test because, Raiders have banged up but decent defense, and pretty good run defense. So we saw at least against
the run. Well, that's where you can
Denver.
actually see it. That's what scares me in this game is you're going to be you guys run the ball, because as a whole, if you look it up, the ranking on the Raiders' run defense has not been the best this season. So I think that's something that KC could take advantage of this game. And that's why I'm worried about, and that's why I'm asking questions about Pacheco, because, yeah, that's a nice 1-2 punch for sure.
Yeah. So that's what, that's what I want to watch for and just see how they use that moving forward, getting that option back. And I think Amina Hughes, he's been a full participant too. So, it could be another influx into the defensive line and more specifically the pass rush as well. So, kind of like I think I've said the past couple weeks with them kind of their pending return looming, it's for them to be where they're at and only getting healthier. It's a good spot to be in.
Yeah. And another good matchup I'm really kind of interested, which we all know Tyree Wilson's had his issues, and he definitely wasn't, in my opinion, worthy of the 7th pick in the draft. But things are starting to click for him. He's got 3 sacks in the last 4 games. So,
he's coming around.
So he's starting to come around, and again with your tackle issues and him starting to improve. I'm going to be kind of curious, with Max on one side, and he's been moving back in and out. So on the inside, I think you guys got studs there. You're stout.
Yeah.
But I am kind of curious to see how he kind of performs since he's on the up against your left tackle. So that's going to be another interesting watch.
Yeah, I'm not looking forward to that. That's why, that's why they signed DJ Humphries. And and I don't. Maybe they make that move. I don't know if they do this week. But yeah, it's definitely cause for concern.
It's a shorter week. I'm not sure you guys will.
Yeah, and they just signed him Monday.
Yeah.
So our Sunday night, it might have been right after the game.
It actually makes more sense for what you guys did because you then get an extra extended kind of
time. Like a mini bye.
Yeah, so a little mini bye week to kind of get him worked in. So I could see him coming back like next Sunday kind of deal. You know what I mean? Like your week 14.
One interesting thing to watch is, Spencer Schrader, the kicker they signed in replacement of Hubucker, is also not practicing right now with the hamstring issue.
What?
Did not practice today. And I have yet to see any news of any potential replacement options. So maybe they're going to let Justin Reed kick. I don't know, but that might play a factor in some.
So. You never see that. That's crazy.
Just to throw my kind of score prediction into the ring, curious your guys' thoughts. I actually disagree with Captain as well, Alex. So you and I are in lockstep in that regard. I also think that in lieu of what we saw, pardon me?
I was waiting for you to be like, well, where I differ is I think the Raiders win.
No, I'm not. Well, I'm not quite.
It's okay to say
yet,
that,
but it is. Let's put it this way: it is always a possibility in division games that you fall to your division rivals because it's within your division. I'm sorry,
Christmas.
It's a fact, right? It's a fact, right? But I actually see this being like a 23-20 game. I think this is another one of those walk-off field goal style things for your Chiefs.
Maybe not.
The Raiders showed some real. They didn't show they could finish per se when they lost Gardner Minshew because Minshew he has that it factor where he refuses. He's kind of like Tim Tebow in that regard, as far as I'm concerned, where he just wants to win and he'll do whatever he can to try to win. And I think that gets him in trouble sometimes where he kind of makes stupid throws, but at the end, but other times he'll take the extra risk and it will pay off. And it's the reason why they win. So he kind of falls on both ends of the same spectrum. And now with Ritter, and I don't even know who your other quarterback is, Jack. I'm not going to lie.
Oh, well, it's going to be AOC 12 is going to start.
Yeah, that's it.
Okay, well, that might change.
Maybe Daniel Jones. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah, no, he's gone. He's already been signed.
But
Minnesota got him.
But anyways,
oh yeah,
he'd rather be a backup than a starter.
My thought is that what you guys might end up with is just a very close game. I just think that the Raiders defense is quite good. I think they're going to keep the game closer than they otherwise should. I think Mahomes has shown a bit. Regression is not a good word. He has shown that he's kind of becoming more human, I guess is the better way of putting it, because he's not put up those kind of like God mode numbers, like those like used to see him and Tyreek Hill and him with like
I don't know.
Those.
I mean, there's I think 7 to 8 games this year alone. You can go watch one play that he did that put them in the position to win. So I mean, I don't know.
Well, he's done that. No, he's a closer. He always comes through.
He continues to show that he has the resilience, but the point is that he's not. You're not winning games soundly like you used to in terms of, 45-12.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you know what I mean? Like the Chiefs, when you had the collective offensive talent around you, the Chiefs were really winning by quite large margins in their scores, kind of back in that initial stretch there.
Well, yeah, that's so true. I mean, it kind of reverted more towards the defense.
Right.
And so you don't really have to, you're not going to have as much on the offense when you spend all your money on the defense and you got a $50 million quarterback.
Right. And so the thing is, Mahomes, unlike others, shows that he is clutch.
Mm-hmm.
And that's like, even those clutch plays, they happen once a game. That's where he earns his $50 million. And
right.
No one's gonna argue it.
He's right? worth more than that.
But I mean, yeah, he's like, I think he's like the 8th highest paid QB. So,
which isn't that crazy? You know,
well, that's that contract, who was I listening to? I was listening to some podcast and they talked about, it was LaShawn McCoy was on, I think, Johnny Manziel's new podcast, but he said when he went down to Tampa Bay, Brady was asking him like, hey, this like Mahomes guy, is he like really like that? You know, like it said, you know, that Brady said the way when I knew he was like that is when he took less money than being the, you know, highest paid player at his position, and, you know, doing what kind of Brady did and like letting there be room to build around him. Whereas you see some of these other teams that have paid their guy the top dollar, and then it's, you know, cut them from the team, or we got to lose someone else. And
like
so,
Dak.
Like Dak.
That's a good one.
Burrow's going to be like that.
More about legacy.
Kirk Cousins.
Yeah, Daniel Jones. He got a pretty. Not that he didn't. I think he got paid close to what Mahomes was making on an average per year salary, and, you know, look where that got him.
Right, but Mahomes showed that he's willing to look ahead towards legacy.
Yeah, exactly.
Knowing that he can make up any gap in his salary on a per year basis with incentives, simply because he's Patrick Mahomes. And when you keep winning, people always are going to associate your name with winning, and companies will pay you top dollar.
Yeah, I mean,
to promote their products.
He probably earns more in sponsorships than his year salary anyway. I mean, look at all the other opportunities he has.
That's insane if you think about it. I mean, he's making $50 million a year and he's getting more off of, you know, endorsements. I mean, just wow.
I'm about to look this up.
That's just wow. And, you know, I will say this, you know, again, since last, you know, against the Broncos, Bowers, and again, Surtain had a good game against Bowers. And again, the first time around, I think, you know, Bowers kind of took it to McGuffey. And I think there may be a change. I think, you know, the Broncos kind of laid out a plan. Is you put your number one, you know, DB on them and just follow them the whole game. Don't take your side of the field or whatever. Just put your number one DB on them. So I'm just kind of curious if KC is going to follow that.
$20 million in 2023 from endorsements, which is the second highest earning athlete behind Tom Brady somehow.
Wow.
I have no idea what LL Bean is.
You're wearing the shirt.
What, this?
Yeah, that just looks like a shirt they would have. It's just their style.
Oh, is that like an outdoorsy
Happy
store?
Thanksgiving, Rick. Yeah, or I don't know, something.
Okay.
Ask Cool Kev. I'm too poor to afford the LL Bean.
Dude, I literally live like north of the city. I'm in the country, basically, for all intents and purposes. Cows and horses outnumber people.
Rich's life is like the training montage from Rocky IV. You know, a lot of running in the mountains, chopping wood.
Dude, there's a reason why my family are all like mountain men. Like, we all live like way up in the cabins in the north, and, you know, we're like, you know, generators and everything. Like, that's just kind of the way we work. But
living off the grid. What's that? That Alaska show?
I don't have any off the grid family members because we're slightly more sophisticated than that. We certainly, not yet, but we are certainly built different, where we will move out into the boonies and build our own house from scratch. and go that route. So we're a different breed. But I maintain I think it's going to be like a 23-20 game for you guys.
I'm right there with you. I disagreed with Cap too. I think it's going to be a closer game. Again, just seeing the way the Raiders have been playing, they're in the games until the very end, and then they find a way to lose it.
Quarterback play.
KC is winning at the very end, so I don't buy this 12.5-point spread that I'm seeing out there. I'm going to call it. I'm going to call it like Denver. We got 19 off Denver. I think we could get 19 off KC, so I'm going to call it 19-24 in KC.
And see, Kev, this is the problem with my score prediction, is that this outcome is actually possible, right? You could easily have the flip occur where Max Crosby tackle for loss, force fumble Mahomes, Raiders, kick a field goal last second and win. Like when you let's look at it this way. When you look at how close the Panthers-Chiefs game was, it's every bit a possibility that a turnover could have occurred to flip the script, right? Like, Alex, that's not meant as a knock on your team at all. It's just a fact, right? Like, when you're in a razor thin margin and you're winning by 3, there is an absolute legitimate possibility, like for sure, that the other team could simply just do something and win.
Well, and it's going to be interesting too. Again, Alex brought up that his starting kicker's hurt. The whoever the backup they brought in is hurt. So I mean, how many times are you going to have to go for it then on 4th down if you don't have anyone to kick the ball?
Alex, just to be clear, I used to kick in rugby, which is a much larger football, and I can kick it from half field and get it through the uprights. I'm ready to go. Okay, I am a short call away for your Chiefs. It will kill me
to wear a Kansas City Chiefs uniform.
It will kill me
like to see that.
It'll kill me to wear the red and gold or the red and yellow. But if the price is right, who am I to say no?
I mean, hey, that minimum is like a mil. So.
Yeah.
so again, Richie, here it is. Game-winning field goal. You're not that far. You just need a couple wins. You can be right up there for your Broncos.
Yeah, that's what
Are you going to
Paul Crew us, dude? He'd shave points, no doubt.
Well, we're a full 3 games back of the Chiefs, and it would take a lot of missed kicks to make up that gap. We'll just put it that way. So guys, Jack, what I think you were what? 20-17 or something.
I had 19-24.
19-24, and then Alex, you were about a 10-point.
27-17.
We're all kind of
pretty close,
roughly within the same ballpark.
Assessment.
Yeah, we're all roughly in the same ballpark. And it's just division is division, man. Like it's an interesting thing. Unless you're totally lopsided. Right? Like unless your team is like completely void of talent, but even then, even within division, you still normally find a way to, make your division rivals,
gotta make them squirm.
Sweat it out a little bit, right? But so I'm going to move on to my Denver Broncos.
I win, so it's okay.
Yeah,
I'm not going to be hurt by it.
That draft board.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Go New York Giants. Let's go.
Yeah. So I'm gonna move on to my Denver Broncos. I'm gonna quickly cover off just a few roster moves that took place this week, just because some of them were pretty big. Greg Dulcich, otherwise known by me as Weird Al Yankovic, who is the tight end for our team. If you honestly haven't seen him, go look it up. Like the dude looks like Weird Al. Like he's got legit hair. Yeah. We outright cut him from our 53-man roster. He had speed and potential. But ultimately, stiff wind ripped his Achilles or tendon or something. The guy just could not stay healthy. In Broncos country, we kind of refer to him as the Jake Butt of tight ends, which is a former tight end of our Denver Broncos who also could never stay healthy.
Yeah, that you drafted hurt.
that we drafted hurt and then never got unhurt. So anyways, we cut Dulcich from our 53-man roster. The second roster move we made was to activate Drew Sanders from the PUP list. He is yet another edge rusher, although can also double as an inside linebacker if we need it. And so he's a real interesting guy. He's had some injury concerns, but if he's finally back and finally healthy and is able to kind of stay that way, he can be yet another weapon on the offense, or the defense rather, for my Denver Broncos, that could actually convert defense into offense, because when rushers get home, they can often, punch the ball out and that sort of stuff. And Sanders certainly has some speed and size to perhaps allow that kind of stuff to take place. We also cut Calvin Throckmorton from our 53-man roster, and then immediately re-signed him to the practice squad. So that was a rather uneventful move for my Denver Broncos. And then we have Zach Cunningham, who we promoted to our 53-man roster, who is a pretty high draft pick, actually, at inside backer. And I do expect him to probably
Zach
play. Zach Cunningham, that's right.
Yeah, he's been around for a minute, but yeah, he was a beast in college, dude.
He's very good, tackles well, generally a sure tackler, and is kind of what you're looking for. We have Quan Alexander, Zach Cunningham. We got Burton, who's been a stud for us at the inside backer position, stepping in for Singleton, and Stranad. I actually think Cunningham may give Stranad a bit of a push for that starting position, which is, I think, why we signed Cunningham to our 53-man. But either way, overall, all of these moves I see as strengthening the Broncos roster, especially on the defensive side of the ball. And even the move of Throckmorton moving to the practice squad, we can still elevate him 2 times to the active roster and have absolutely no ramifications from that move whatsoever. So I think that we're in good shape in terms of a late season push. We also have our bye week coming up after Monday Night Football, if I'm not mistaken.
So who do you play?
Cleveland.
Ooh, they've been playing better.
At Denver. Jameis coming into town.
Yeah. So we have Jameis coming in, who Sean Payton has some insider baseball on, having coached him for a good number of years. I don't believe Jameis Winston has the hubris to change his stripes, so I think that Sean Payton is going to have quite a few notes to simply hand off verbatim to Vance Joseph, which I think is going to work out well for us. On top of that, I also think that with the Denver Broncos defense kind of bolstering our ranks, if you will, I think that's going to keep some guys fresher and allow us to get home a little bit more. I also suspect, or certainly expect, Zach Allen to be back in the game this game, and he is an absolute difference maker. He's got a motor for days, and I think that's a big deal. So I do actually have my Denver Broncos beating the Browns, despite the fact that obviously Myles Garrett is no joke. He is, the real deal. So there's
I think
no
he had 3 sacks in the first quarter last week against Pittsburgh.
Right. The point is there's no sense in sugarcoating it. The guy is as advertised. Like, he is that good. He really is. But I think overall, I think through offensive scheme and adjustments, I think that we can adapt accordingly and win. So I do.
What
think
do you got to score?
I think this one is going to be, and I think Bo Nix is going to be the difference maker again. I think we've seen enough from Bo Nix these last few games to see that he can compete with elite rushers. He did fairly well with Max Crosby, despite some of those tackle for losses. So I see this score being somewhere in the 31-point range for my Denver Broncos, given what we've seen this past game with the Raiders. I certainly think the Raiders have the Broncos number more than the Browns do, although the Browns, we lost to them last year, and I do think that the Broncos are going to be in a bit of a revenge mode. I think this is going to be something where they felt that they should have beaten the Browns when we lost to them last year. And I think Peyton's kind of one of those interesting coaches. He almost has a chip on his shoulder like players do. He's an interesting dude, like just the way he operates and works. And I could see him have gone to the players in this week and say, like, this is a game for me. Kill him. For some reason, I get that impression. And so I think this is going to be something in the vicinity of like 31-23, 31-20, something like that. I actually think the Broncos have a much better defense, and I think that the defense will be the difference maker here in this game for my Denver Broncos, because Jameis has a weakness, and that is interceptions, and I think that Sean Payton will certainly draw some of those back out of him again.
That is the key right there.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And I think that the secondary for my Denver Broncos, and I think the pressure for my Denver Broncos against the Browns offensive line, we've generally done well, except all games except for the Ravens. The Ravens, we didn't get a ton of pressure really, but most other games, generally speaking, for most of the season, we've been able to get between 3 to 7 sacks depending on the game. So if we're to split the difference and go right down the middle with 5 sacks, I think at least one of those is a strip sack. And then I think there's going to be at least 1 or 2 interceptions. And I think that'll be a huge difference maker. I think that's a huge difference maker in any game.
Absolutely. You're talking multiple turnovers. That is key. It's going to be interesting. It's going to be fun to watch because, against Pittsburgh, is your old wide receiver, Jerry Jeudy, had a great game. Mm-hmm. And him and Jameis they seem like they're on the same page, or they're getting on the same page. And, Steelers have a good defense too. And I think this is going to be a defensive, battle. I really think it's going to be up to, and I do agree, there's going to be some turnovers, on Cleveland's side. It's really going to be up to Bo. I really feel that Bo's going to, have to do something in this game. I see it as being a really low scoring game because both defenses are that good. I mean, Cleveland in the first half, they had in 2023, I think they were like the number 1 defense. And when they played the Steelers, they looked like that team. And they were blowing up the Steelers. So I kind of disagree. I don't see it as that high of a scoring game. I do think it might even be an upset. So it's a 3-point game. It could go to either team. It's just, again, turnovers is going to be the key. I got it, 17-20, and I can see it going either way. But Cleveland's on a 3-game win streak, and I'd say, Richie, I'm going to go for the upset this week. I'm going to go Cleveland.
Bam. Yeah, I think Broncos are 5.5-point favorites. I am I'm with Jack in that I think it's a close game. I think that Denver does win ultimately because kind of like you talked about, Richie, just with Jameis at QB. I feel like he always goes in stretches and then just, goes back to just not reading the field and turn into a gunslinger. And, their past couple games outside of Pittsburgh were not against the best of teams. In Pittsburgh, he kind of came back down to earth a little bit. So, the big thing to me, but is also, Denver's our defense gave up 300 yards to the Raiders, last week. So it's like, that's the biggest key to me is, which one of what side of that unit shows up and which Jameis Winston shows up. But I ultimately do think that the Broncos win. And I'll say, like 24-20, something, close, but I do think Denver pulls it out just because I think their defense bounces back, better. And like you said, with Peyton kind of has the inside scoop on Jameis and probably has, at least a few disguise tricks up their sleeve to get him into baiting him into throwing something. But
that's a good call. I didn't even think about Peyton.
I also don't think that most other teams that they have played thus far have a cornerback like Pat Surtain who can effectively eliminate completely that top receiver. I think a lot of teams,
I know,
when they face,
but at the same time, Richie, I mean, I got to push back a little bit. He eliminated Bowers, but who eliminated Jacoby Myers?
well, we did
And
lose.
they also got Cedric Tillman, who has not been playing bad.
Right. What you have to remember, we also lost Moss in the second quarter there, prior to half, who basically locked down that secondary option for the Raiders for the most part in that game pretty well. Like there was a couple plays that obviously, like every team's going to get a throw in here and there. I don't care who you are. I don't care who you're going up against. That's just going to happen. But generally speaking, Moss basically eliminated that second option for the Raiders as well.
No, well, Jacoby, again, 10 receptions, 121 yards. Tucker had, 7 receptions for 82 yards. So
yeah,
can't say that's eliminated.
No, but you're missing my point, Jack. It's not that you didn't get those yards. You did. It's when those yards came to those additional receivers and against whom. So when you scheme a guy open, like so Myers had what was it, like a 20-yard touchdown or something like that, if I'm not mistaken. No, one of your guys. No, it was
that was Abdullah.
So it's a running back. Sorry,
Abdullah.
But the point is, Moss was often not the one covering the guy or Myers, for example, when he got those yards. It was often a scheme change where Moss took another guy and then Myers was going against another wideout, or some variation thereof, like a safety versus Myers. Myers is too good for a safety. You need to have Myers on a corner who can actually cover him, because Myers is a very sound route runner. Like, I'm sorry, like there is no getting around it. The dude is good. However, I think that the Broncos are deep enough at corner and good enough at safety to cover largely, at least in my opinion, the Browns. You guys might be right. It may be a slightly closer game than I'm willing to give the Browns credit for. But I have to say, given the way that Bo Nix has played against the Falcons, who were coming into that game against the Broncos, they had a bad game. They were coming in hot, with the exception of the Saints game the week prior, and the Broncos just whooped them. And then the Raiders were starting to look more competitive, actually, in the game prior to coming in with the Broncos. And you guys showed that you guys were pretty good, and certainly competitive, and deserve to not be slept on as a team. You guys can be an upset to a few teams, I think, with your defense. So I think that the Browns have a couple good guys on their defense. I think that's not for sure. But I do think with a combination of run and pass, with the Broncos are being pretty balanced, and a quarterback who is making really, really good decisions with the football. Like really, really good decisions with the football.
Oh yeah, I mean Bo Nix has improved the last 4 weeks, every single game, and that's why I said he could be the difference in this. Because you look at the Steelers, I mean, you got your favorite quarterback over there, and they would take him out, and they would put in Fields, to run a certain set of plays too. So that's where I definitely see the Broncos having an advantage. It's going to be like, is it the Cleveland defense of what we saw in the first half against the Steelers, or is it all the other games that we saw and they just don't show up? And again, Jameis is always going to be there with those takeaways, and I agree with that.
Yeah. So I kind of think it's going to be, I think it'll be close for most of the game, but I kind of see this as a little bit of a Falcons Raiders style game where the defense kind of wears them out a little bit. And I could see that. I think the secondary will eventually capitalize. So for example, I agree with your assessment, but I just think that the timeline of the game matters. So in my opinion, I see this being a good / close game up until kind of like third quarter, maybe end of third quarter. And then I think you're going to end up with opportunistic plays where they hold on. Like Vance Joseph is just good at this. Like this is just kind of one of the things he does. He recognizes something in the early stage of the game and will tell his guys, wait to the end of the game if the game is close and do this, this, and this against that look. And it's like turnover. Boom.
And that's going to be tending. If the Broncos are winning, then that's when I could see later in the game Jameis like being the gunslinger, turning that ball over. If Cleveland's winning, then you're just going to just keep hammering with Nick Chubb.
Yeah, and Chubb is a good guy. He's good at what he does. But again, I think the Broncos have shown they're in the top. We're in the top 10 for a reason, and we are ranked 3rd for a reason. We've added interior pressure with Franklin Myers and Roach, and we've bolstered our edge rushers with a good mix. And with Sanders coming back into that mix, fresh legs, etc., I think that can help. Just generally speaking, I think that can help. Yeah. But, that's kind of where I'm at with the Broncos game. Unfortunately, it looks like Robert wasn't able to give us his insights on the Chargers game and whatnot. So I think that's a good spot to end the show for tonight. And let Alex go off and give us his fantasy stuff with Coach.
Yes, sir.
Right after here. So guys and everyone from a Canadian to the rest who are inevitably likely all Americans, happy Thanksgiving. I truly mean it.
Absolutely.
I think this is a fantastic holiday. It's one of my favorite holidays here in Canada. It's also, I typically do travel to the States come Thanksgiving, but this year is going to be a little bit different, especially with 2 young puppies that you saw earlier on the show. They require a tremendous amount of attention.
You're staying home for a bit. Yeah,
I'm staying home for a little bit.
Probably snowed in.
Yeah.
So guys, happy Thanksgiving to everybody. Enjoy those Thanksgiving football games because those are always the best. And everyone, until next week, where the West Side is the best side. Peace.
Fast lane when I pass in the street, bag of money in the passenger seat. Tempo's been asking for me on the road from the west to the east. Way up, I might never come down, cause the coast's racking up the flame mouth.